Kia ora, and welcome to today's episode in which I show some love to my viewers in New Zealand by making a vegan pavlova. I've had this idea of doing a pavlova since I made the coffee and walnut cake a few months ago. I'd looked in my flavour thesaurus under the coffee section and it said blackcurrant pairs really well with coffee. At the time I couldn't think of any way of getting blackcurrant into the cake. Then I got a comment from a viewer in New Zealand asking if I'd ever made a vegan pavlova. So kia ora, Nikki, and thank you very much for the idea. I was going to make the meringue with aquafaba, the water that you get out of a can of chickpeas. But then my mum found this in the supermarket, Orgran egg replacer. So this is made up of tapioca and potato starches, some calcium carbonate, citric acid and methyl cellulose. The downside to vegan pavlovas that I've made in the past is the meringue goes really soft when it's exposed to moisture. So for example, humidity in the kitchen, or if you're putting it with fruit and cream. So I thought to combat that, I'm going to make individual ones and then I can kind of build them on demand. Pavlova is based on I want to say a ballet dancer called Anna Pavlova. I think she was over in New Zealand, went to a restaurant and they whipped something up for her. And it's meringue, cream and fruit. It's going to be a little bit of a hybrid between a pavlova and a millefeuille, which is the French pastry that's many layers of puff pastry that's very thin. So you stack pastry filling, that kind of thing. This is going to be the size of rectangle that I do for the meringue. Then I'm going to mix up a blackberry mousse cream type of thing, and then I'm going to make a coffee gel and then pipe small amounts of that on just to give a little bit of flavour. I found a meringue recipe on allergymums.co.uk. I'll stick the link in the description. They talk about making vegan meringues and they had a method for aquafaba and a method using the Orgrans. They've said that aquafaba meringues are more chewy, whereas the Orgran ones are more crisp. So I think this is probably going to be more like the ones you get, you know, when you buy them in the supermarket, like the little nest type things. There's a brand in the UK called Oggs and they do cartons of aquafaba. And in that recipe, they talk about the cooking temperature specified by Oggs is 100 degrees C, but they found that the meringues just melted completely. So they said do it on the lowest temperature possible in the oven. Mine's set now at 50 degrees C. I'll convert that on screen for you. No idea, I've never baked anything that low before. I think the meringue bit's going to be the lengthiest part of the process because it needs to be whipped to a very stiff peak. When you're making meringues, vegan or with eggs, you need to make sure everything is completely grease-free. So I've re-washed everything with a lot of dish soap just to be on the safe side, and then I've wiped everything with a bit of white vinegar just to, you know, give myself the best possible chance at not just having a bowl of fluff. I'm using an electric mixer to do the eggs, and I'd recommend you do the same. I don't fancy doing that by hand. So we need 90 grams of the Orgrans. I'm not doing cup conversions for this. It needs more precision than cups are going to give you. You'll have the metric measurements down in the description, so feel free to do the conversions yourself. I'm adding a half teaspoon of pectin. According to the packet, this is going to add extra stability. I've washed my sieve and I need it for the sugar. Tiny sieve it is. Good Lord. Thought things were going too well. I've just realised I've made a major mistake. Switched the cameras off so that I wasn't wasting battery while I sorted the sugar out. Thought I'd switch them back on again, but I hadn't. And so, so you've missed a bit of an important part. Mixed a tablespoon of light brown soft sugar into the icing sugar, powdered sugar I think it is in the States, and then mixed the pectin and the Orgrans together in the bowl, and then switched the machine on and then started slowly adding the water. All I can do is apologise. It's literally just slowly pour water into the powder as you're beating it. So do a splash, mix it, splash more. I made sure to go around the bowl a few times because you'll see clumps building up on the side as well. So you just want to make sure you get those in. So now I'm going to start the beater up again, and then I'm going to slowly add in the sugar, a couple spoonfuls at a time, something like that. Okay, so that's had all the sugar in it. Yeah, it's going to need more icing sugar. I've done another 35. Fingers crossed this is going to be it because I'm already over this. See, I wouldn't call that stiff, so I'll do the same amount again. Done another 45 grams. Fingers crossed this is going to be it. I mean, look, we're nearly there, I think. Don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but I'm covered in the stuff. Okay, I think we might be there, you know. Got a piping bag. I'm having an internal dialogue of whether 50 degrees is going to be hot enough. It says lowest oven temperature possible, but what if their oven goes to 80 is the lowest? I've just Googled what's the lowest an oven can go, and it's saying most go to 140 Fahrenheit, which is 76. I'm going to do it at 80, and if it melts, it melts. I've got 2 baking trays here. Don't know whether you're going to see that properly here, but this is the piping bag tip that I'm going to use. It's got a little spike there. So I'm thinking it's going to be like a Pac-Man shape. So I've folded the top of the piping bag back, just because otherwise you end up getting it caked and then it's very messy. So the texture of it is very, very meringue-like. So hopefully this is going to do what I want. So can you see the outlines visible under the paper? Well, that's an absolute mess, isn't it? Piping is not my forte, and I won't pretend otherwise. I feel like it's curdling almost. That's not the right word. But it's got like a somewhat lumpy texture. Got 1 tray done. This was the first, and that's the last. And there is a textural difference. So I wonder if it's the heat of my hand that's melting things. I'm going to put this tray in on the middle shelf of the oven, and then when I do the second tray, I'll put that on the top shelf. They need to be in there for an hour and a half. Then I'm going to switch the oven off and then leave them in there for another hour or so, maybe hour and a half. In the meantime, I'm going to have a go with the second batch, just doing freeform circles or something like that, just to avoid that, because I think it's the temperature of my hands as I'm squeezing the bag. It's melting the sugar. I think what's happening. I might be wrong. And then once I've cleaned down and everything, I'm then going to move on to making the blackberry cream. It's the following day. Yesterday, everything went a bit sideways. So the meringues, oh boy, was that the wrong temperature. Well, I'm definitely glad I had the presence of mind that 50 wasn't going to be nearly high enough and put it to 80. But even that, still not hot enough. So the meringues are all baked. I think in the end, I had them in the oven 3 hours, something like that. I think after 2 hours, I ended up putting it up to 100. Once I'd piped that first tray, I then got bored. The next tray, I just covered the whole paper and then scored lines into it. So that is the meringue, nice and crisp. Once I switched the oven off, I've just left them in there overnight and they've been fine, just chilling out in there. It's turned out to be a really hot day, which is typical, of course, now I have to be inside. Just to save the kitchen getting really hot and the camera's overheating, I've done a lot of stuff just in close-up for you, so I'll bring you up to date where we are at the moment. So this is the blackberry puree that I've made. I started with about 850 grams of whole blackberries, put them in the pot and just simmered them until I could break them down quite easily. Once everything had softened, I dumped everything through a sieve into a bowl and just used spoons and spatulas to get as much of the kind of juice and the pulp out as possible, leaving the seeds behind. This is all the seeds and a bit of stuff that was left behind because my hands are killing me, so I could only do so much. I'm going to fry off some onions, put in some plums, a couple of apples, and then some, I think, port, some spices, make a really nice chutney. So nothing gets wasted. I'm going to use this to make the mousse cream kind of thing. This is going to be the coffee component. So I've made a little coffee gel. So I took 120 mils of really strong brewed coffee and mixed it with 30 grams of golden castor sugar. Once I'd combined those really well, I then added in 3 grams of agar, which is, I think it's a seaweed extract, but it's like a vegan gelatin substitute. Mixed that together and then brought it up to the boil and whisked it. Probably took 5 minutes in total, something like that. I got a little dish and took a small amount out and then put it in the fridge for a minute. Once I knew it had set okay, then I just took it off the heat, put it in there. I used a recipe that I found on, I want to say staffcanteen.com, something like that. I'll link to it in the description. The recipe says once it's set to then whip it up, kind of blend it down. I don't think I'm going to bother. I think what I might just do is cut little thin slivers. A quick little note on the blackberries. So in that flavour thesaurus, the combination is actually blackcurrant and coffee. Couldn't find any blackcurrants in the shop anyway, and I kind of somehow blackcurrants got rewritten as blackberries in my mind. So I've just gone for blackberries in the end. And I think because I've cooked them down, it makes the flavour richer and bolder. So I think it's going to be just as good as blackcurrants. But if you can get hold of blackcurrants, by all means use those as well. I think the flavour combination works quite well anyway, because I tried a bit of the gel after I'd licked my spoon from the blackberry and it worked really nicely together. Because it's slightly savoury and there's a little something else in there, it's almost a bit like adding licorice into things, it just lifts the flavour up. So it's not, oh, that's coffee. It's just, it does an extra little something that's really nice. I did initially think about making an aquafaba mousse for the blackberries, and I did toy with that idea, but ultimately I've decided to make more of a cream type of thing because I saw this in the supermarket. So it's Flora is a brand that makes butters, spreads, that kind of thing, and they've started a plant-based line. So this is double cream that apparently whips just like dairy cream. Hopefully, because otherwise everything's going to fall apart. So my plan is to whip this up really fluffy and light. So I'm going to take the blackberry puree, stick it in the blender, and I'm going to blend it up with some soaked cashews. So this was 45 grams of cashews that I soaked. This component of the recipe, the mousse cream thing, is completely my invention. So it's very much guesswork at this stage. So I'm going to put the blackberry stuff in and I'll do small handfuls of the cashew until I'm happy with whatever amount. I'll also blend in some silken tofu. My hope is that using some silken tofu and the cashews as well is going to give it a nice amount of body, but without lots of fat from the cream. And hopefully give it some structure that it will hold a whip better, so it will be lighter rather than just a thick, dense cream kind of thing. I'm just hoping that the finished result is going to be substantial enough to pipe, you know, not just ooze off the meringue, because I want it to be nice little blobs. I've sieved a load of icing sugar. Not going to need anywhere near this amount, but I'm not going to get caught like I did yesterday because I've used the sieve for the berries. And I'll add a little bit of vanilla extract just to lift the flavours up a little bit, round them off. I'm going to use a high-speed blender to do the berries, cashews and silken tofu, and because of the speed and the friction of a high speed, things get warm, if not hot, inside there. So I'm going to do this bit first because then I can put that in my little chilling bowl with some ice and just cool it back down again, because I think if I put anything warm in the whipped cream, it's just going to melt. Once I'd sieved all the fruit, it was quite liquid still, so I'll put it back in the pan and just let it gently simmer for 10 minutes just to thicken it up a little bit. I think I'll start with a quarter of the cashews. Drop those in. I'll blend this in and then we'll see what happens. I'll stop it every now and then just to scrape the sides down. Yeah, I think I'll just put all of the cashews in. This is a 350 gram pack of tofu, so we're going to start from that number and then I'll tell you how much it's decreased by. I'll start with half a teaspoon of the vanilla. I'll start adding like tablespoons of sugar into it. I'll do maybe one to start with, blend it, stop it, taste it. I don't want this to be really sweet because those meringues are almost pure sugar, so I want this to be quite tart and tangy. Give that a try. Yeah, good. So I've put the jug back in the iced water, put some salt in the water to help it drop colder. The whipping cream is made from lentil protein, vegetable oils, emulsifiers. First time ever using it, so this will be interesting to try. 250ml pot. I've looked on the pot and there's no specific instructions, so I assume I'm just gonna whip it up. So that looks pretty good, you know. I mean, that tastes just like cream to me, but lighter. The meringues are very, very sweet, so I don't want tons of sugar in this component because otherwise it's just going to be overwhelmingly sweet. But if you like really sugary things, feel free to add some icing sugar into here. I'm going to give the blackberry mixture a whip. I don't know if it's going to do anything, but it's worth a shot, and then I can tell you whether it's worth bothering. I've got one of these cold packs underneath just to help chill it down. I'm just going to go in. I've not bothered cleaning the beaters or anything. Yeah, it's hard to know if that's actually done anything. Taking a small amount of cream that I'll use to do plain cream on its own maybe. I think I'll go berries into cream. So I'm going to take kind of large spoonfuls at a time. And then we need to carefully fold it. So you're not stirring it, you're kind of lifting and moving it. I'm going to have tons of this mixture, but that's absolutely fine because I'm going to make ice cream with whatever remains. It's been ages since I've cooked blackberries and I didn't know how much puree I'd come out with. Don't know whether to risk one more. Yeah, let's go for it. This is probably a mistake. Well, I don't risk putting any more in. I wonder if I should chill it for half an hour just to see if that helps it set, and that'll give me the best chance possible. So I'll see you back in half an hour or so. So our lovely little vegan pavlova is all done, layered, and looking delicious. I mean, I legit think that is the prettiest thing I've ever made. Yes. And I am shocked at how well that mousse is holding. I thought it was all going to blur as soon as I started putting the layers on, and it's fine. That's incredible. I'll slot in close-up footage of how I did it. Under that first meringue, there's a little blob of cream just to anchor the thing in place so it doesn't move too much. Then I did rows of mousse, meringue, repeat, repeat, repeat. And then on the top, I piped on some of the mousse, put some of the cream on top of that, and then cut some very thin slivers of the gel. And then just did a little, you know, art installation, because why not? Got a feeling as soon as I put the spoon in, it's just gonna do the thing I feared it would already. But let's have a go. I've got some with the mousse, some with the meringue, and a bit of the gel on top. Let's go in. Oh my God, that's sensational. Cutting back the amount of sugar in the mousse was 100% the right thing to do, because the sugar from the meringue combines with the mousse and just makes it the perfect level of sweetness, whereas otherwise it's going to be really overwhelming. With the bit of mint as well, delicious. Even though there's cream in the cashews, it just feels super, super light. Like, this is a great dessert if you've had a big meal, because it's not, you know, overly rich. And the coffee there, yeah, it just adds a little something. That's the amount of mousse I've got after doing that. This is what's left of the blackberry mixture that hasn't got the cream in it. I still need to have my dinner, so there's no doubt going to be another maybe 2 of those for dessert. And then tomorrow, you know, my mum's going to have some, maybe a neighbour, and then I'll see how much stuff I've got left over and whatever remains of the mixture. I've got another of those tubs of cream, so I might whip that up, mix the remainder of the berry stuff, and then bang that in the freezer, or even in the ice cream maker, maybe. Yeah, I'll do that, because the inner is frozen. That bottom piece has had the mousse on for at least 10 minutes, and it's still got some crispness to it. Whereas I think the aquafaba meringues, I think it would have melted at least more than this has by now. So for something with a wet topping or filling, the Organs is perhaps the better of the two to do, but aquafaba's going to be fine. Another really nice alternative if you don't want to do such precise, nice, fancy layering. Get a bowl, put some dollops of whipped cream and the mousse in, and then stab some shards of the meringue in, and then just keep layering that. Maybe you could put some slices of blackberry in there as well. If you do it with strawberries, it's classically an eaten mess, so it's a great way of using up broken meringues. If you want to make a bigger pavlova, I'd go maybe circular, something like that, so blob your mixture on, spread it into a circle. You can either pipe a wall so that you've got like a shallow dish of meringue, or do one disc and then do another disc with the wall, because then you could put like the mousse on the bottom, and then the inside you could do cream, just plain whipped cream, maybe marble through some of the unmixed mousse. You know, you've got some variety there. You can get different textures in and start scattering in the coffee gel, that kind of thing. Yeah, so a very flexible, versatile thing. I'm really glad of the opportunity to try out that mousse idea, because that's going to work with so many different fruits and different flavours as well. I wonder if it'd work as a chocolate mousse. If I ever give that a go, I'll stick the results down in the pinned comment for you. I need to say a massive thank you to Nikki from New Zealand for putting the idea of doing a pavlova in a comment down below. And if you've got any ideas, suggestions, that kind of thing, always feel free to leave a comment. Very open to viewer suggestions. I'll see what I can do for you. I also need to thank my community over on Patreon. Their support, both emotionally and financially, let's be honest. It really does help keep things moving along, keep me ticking. I'm always there sharing ideas with them and chatting about different movie and TV things to watch. If you want to join up, I'll leave the link to that down in the description for you. If you'd like lots more plant-based recipes, including ideas of how to veganise your favourites, like this video and subscribe to the channel, look for a bell icon and give it a tap. You'll get an alert as soon as I publish a new one. And while you're waiting for the next one, have a look at this.